Hey YouTubers, long time no see. I've got a few items to cover today in this random photo notes, which will only probably be about photography a little bit. My dry spell continues, something awful. I do have some photos to show you, and let's just say that they will appear as this video goes on. There aren't that many. The last roll I shot was when I did the tripod head review, the Vanguard. I think it was the BH300 tripod head review. So I got the results back from that. They aren't that exciting, but I'll show them. Maybe I should just keep prattling on so that I have time to show the pictures while I mumble. Anyway, moving on. I don't really like doing this, but I'm going to try it, and if it bums you out, let me know. I got a couple of things that I'm selling, and I thought I would let my YouTube subscribers or folks that trip over this video have an opportunity to buy this stuff, and I don't mean to make this channel into a sales channel or anything like that. It's not what I'm going for. It's just I thought I'd give it a shot, and here you go. One item is my Hasselblad 150 millimeter f4 sonar. This goes on to really any V-series body, but it's really made for the bodies that don't have focal plane shutter, so 500C, 500CM, 503s, you know, all of the normal Hasselblad bodies this is good for. This is a great portrait lens, and I use this quite a bit for my 100 Strangers project. The only reason I'm selling this is because I have a 150 millimeter f2.8, which is a stop faster, and I use that on my focal plane bodies, so I don't need two 150 millimeter lenses. It's in really good shape. The only sort of wear on it is around the hood bayonet, and that's pretty common because the coupling is metal on the hood, and it comes with a hood. The hood's average. It's not the greatest, but it's a real Hasselblad hood, and it's in okay shape. Caps on it. There's a UV filter on it. There's a rear cap. Glass is in good shape. It's a good setup. So if you have a body, because I turned you on to Hasselblad, and you don't have a good portrait lens, there's one. The other thing is my Domkey F3X. And I'm selling this because I was using it for my Fuji GW690, but it turns out that camera fits really nicely in my retrospective 7. So I don't really need both bags, and I really only was having this for the Fuji, so I don't need this anymore. The prices should be showing for these things down here in case I change them. Anyway, it's a good bag. It's in perfect shape. I didn't really use it all that often. I only carried it when I carried my Fuji 690. And even then, I wouldn't carry it over my shoulder. I would basically take the camera out because you don't change lenses on a Fuji 690. So pretty much throw the camera on, leave the bag in the car. So I just used it to protect the camera. So it's in fine shape. All the original padding. It's almost unused. Okay, moving on from that. What else do I have? I don't have much. I've been sort of going back into an audio phase here. Maybe that's to make up for the fact I'm not shooting very much. So I have mentioned recently that I have done some work with my stereo system, and this video won't cover that work, but I'm pretty happy with what I've got in there now. I say in there because that's the next room over here that I'm pointing at. Pretty nice setup. I've got my home theater on one side and pure stereo on the other side, and I've got some classic stereo gear mixed in here, so I'm really happy with that, and I'll do a video on that setup before too long. And so speaking of that, I'm going to take a minute to talk about a baker's dozen of vinyl LPs that I pulled out. These I've got, I don't know how many albums I have, maybe a couple hundred. I don't have gobs. And I hadn't bought any for a really, really long time. So when I started wanting to play around with stereo again, I pulled out some vinyl, and what I thought I'd show you is the first baker's dozen of vinyl I pulled off my shelves. So here we go. All right. If I was really not lazy, unfortunately I am lazy, I would find a way to play you snippets from these albums while I show them to you, but I'm going to be lazy. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find most of this stuff on iTunes or whatever your music source of choice is. Some of them maybe not. And so I kind of mentioned I haven't bought vinyl in a long time. That means my vinyl is all pretty old, and it's pretty much 80s, early 90s. All right then, without further ado, Michael Hedges, Aerial Boundaries. This is on Windham Hill, and I think Windham Hill is still around. I don't really shop for music like this anymore. Windham Hill was a New Age label. I assume it's still there. We'll just assume that it is. And Michael Hedges was one of their headline acts, and he's a great solo acoustic guitarist. A lot of you have probably heard of this. If you haven't, check it out. He's got a percussive style that probably he pioneered to some degree. There's always these guys that know more than me that say, well, actually, so-and-so did it back in '68. But Michael Hedges, if he didn't sort of create it, he popularized it a lot in the time period where this was recorded. I think this was around 82 or so, 84. This is a very interesting album. This is Cafe Noir, and this is a band that was, and maybe is, based in Dallas, Texas. This was recorded in Dallas. This is essentially a jazz album. It's kind of a gypsy jazz, Django Reinhardt style, hot jazz, French jazz. If you like that kind of stuff, you'll really love this. It's an excellent recording. It's got, violin and obviously guitar. I'm not going to... Here's the instruments right here on the front. That's what it has. So it's very cool if you can find it. I bet you can't, but I haven't really looked. It's self-titled, doesn't have a name, and this is from '88. Classic. I mentioned before that I am a huge Elvis Costello fan. I am. This is one of his very best albums. If you want to listen to Elvis Costello or get turned on to Elvis Costello, this is a great one to start with. A little bit of everything's on here. Some of his kind of country tinge, some of his Lounge Lizard tinged jazzy stuff is on here. His straight ahead rock style stuff is on here. It's kind of a high concept album. Very easy to listen to, though, at least if you are used to the way Elvis Costello writes songs. This was a big deal in the day. I like this album so much, and it got played so much that this one's kind of beat, and I actually bought a Mobile Fidelity copy of it recently, which is really nice and quiet and not beaten up like this one. This was from 82, 1982. This one's a little unusual. This is the Color Field, and this guy here is from The Specials. That was a ska band from late 70s, early 80s. And what's his name? I think his name's Terry Hall. Can't remember for sure. Anyway, Color Field, this album anyway, I've got two albums. I haven't played the other one in a while. I think the other one's called Deception. This one is called Virgins and Philistines. It's kind of a new psychedelia, and that was a big deal in the sort of mid to late 80s and leaking into the 90s a bit. It's, got sort of a 60s sound, but updated with, sort of better recording and so forth. Very good. I don't know if you'll be able to find it. It's probably out of print. And this was done in 85. Dang, I thought this was newer than that. Anyway, I figured this was from the 90s. This is a good thing if you can find it. As I said, I haven't checked out any of these things to see if they're available. Have a look and see if you can find it, and maybe you'll like it. It's a very good recording, by the way. Most of the stuff I dug out. Very nice recordings. That's part of the reason I listen to music, is to hear how stuff is recorded. Okay, this has got a couple of my favorite tunes ever on it. This album cover is impossible to see on this video. This is Ralph Towner, Batik, is the name of the album. This is on ECM. In my last video, I talked about how ECM makes kind of space jazz, and this is a very typical example. Ralph Towner plays classical guitar on this, maybe other types of guitar. Eddie Gomez and Jack DeJohnette, basically my favorite jazz drummer, they play on this. It's phenomenal. It's got some tunes that are very listenable and some that are a little more abstract, but it's one of my favorites. The tune Water Wheel on here is just awesome, and I used it on one of my videos. I can't remember which one, where I fired up the turntable. That's what this was playing on there, and this is fairly old, 78. Did I mention it's on ECM? One of my favorite Pat Metheny albums. In my last video, I said that I really love the Pat Metheny album Reunion. I do love it, but it's not the one I had in mind. It's Rejoicing is the one that I really, really love. There's the lead track on both sides of this, phenomenal. Some of the most beautiful music I have ever heard. Maybe it's an acquired taste because you have to like Pat Metheny. I don't think so. I think just about anybody would like this. Some of the other stuff on here, definitely acquired taste. There's kind of hard bop and then some crazy abstract stuff. But this is fabulous. I have this in vinyl. I've got it on CD, and I'll probably get a newer pressing of it because I like it that much. I don't remember when this is from. I'm going to guess late 70s. And it's a promo. I used to work in a record shop, so a lot of my albums are promos from those days. Another Elvis album, King of America. Fabulous sounding, is incredible sounding. This one leans a little bit more towards country or roots music. So that's another way to check out Elvis if you like rootsier sound. And absolutely gorgeous recording. Sounds great on this vinyl. I think I have it on CD, but I listened to it on the vinyl when I listened to it, so I couldn't tell you how the CD sounds. Going a little off to the weird side, this is an EP by The Cure. I don't know if this is rare or not. I've always liked The Cure. I haven't always liked them. I liked them when they came about and listened to them a lot in their time back in the 80s and early 90s. But the thing is, I don't have their catalog memorized. I don't know whether this is rare or not. It's probably not. Anyway, it's got a good variety of weird Cure stuff on it, and my favorite thing on here is a song called Lament. It's just got a really great instrumental bit to it, and it kind of goes on forever. It's a little bit reminiscent of another Cure album that I'm going to pull out here in a second. This is another Windham Hill recording, Billy Oskay and Michael O'Donnell. I don't know really how to say this Gaelic name, but I'm just going to say it's Michael O'Donnell. How about that? This is kind of pastoral, like a lot of the Windham Hill stuff. It's fairly easy listening, acoustic-based music. It's got a tune on here called Bridges that I really, really like a lot. This one I'm pretty sure I bought it used at my record store that I worked at, and it's kind of beat up, but I'll listen to it anyway. By the way, I've gone through all this. This vinyl is washed. So I went through a sink washing process with this. And there's videos about that on YouTube. If you guys hammer me for it, I can show you what I've been doing. And it's working pretty well. I've done a couple of rounds and changed things a little bit. My last round worked really well, I think. Just totally on the other side of the world, we got here Thomas Dolby. But this is one of my favorite albums ever. This has some really beautiful music on it. Thomas Dolby, is known for production, probably to a larger extent than as a solo artist. But this album, The Flat Earth, is really great. So it's kind of electronic, but he's got a very soft approach to electronic music, and it's got plenty of acoustic stuff in it. But he does sampling and so forth, and his samples are very organic. So he's got some of the softer electronic music out there. Most of the tunes on this are it's just got really nice melodies and great sounds going on. There's a couple of harder edge Thomas Dolby style electronic stuff, but a lot of it is much more moody and really enjoyable to listen to. So I recommend this album highly if you can find it. I think that's from the early 80s. I mean, what am I saying? All of this stuff's going to be basically from the early 80s. I don't, yeah, 84. All right. This is a really weird one. This album has Ralph Towner on it. Ralph Towner is one of my favorite jazz guitarists. It's not like I've memorized his catalog, but I can almost guarantee I'll like something that he's involved in. This also has sitar, looks like clarinet. It's very eclectic, and this is not an ECM album, but it could be. It's got like one of the tunes is practically solo sitar, so it's weird. So I can't sell it 100%. I pulled it out because I was like, oh yeah, that Oregon album. Yeah, I should check that out. So I need to spend a little more time with it. I know there was a cut or two on here I really liked, but I haven't spent the time with it. I only played the first 2-3 tracks on it. I haven't spent the time on it to rediscover what it was I loved about it. And I've got another Oregon album on the shelf. I just haven't pulled it out. It's one of my very favorite Keith Jarrett albums. I like Keith Jarrett a lot. This is on ECM as well. Where is it? What time period is it from? I'm guessing the 70s. Yep, 1977. And most of the tunes on here are very melodic. No crazy. If you're not used to jazz, some jazz can be hard to listen to at first. But this has got a couple of cuts on it that are just beautiful, and you'll just like them. And it's not Keith Jarrett going nuts. It's Keith Jarrett playing super melodic lines, and it's good stuff. So I can recommend this one. I've got this on CD too, but I listened to the vinyl. The last one, and these weren't in any particular order. The last one is another Cure album. It's really a double album that was packaged that way for, I don't know if it was just the U.S. market or what. But it's called Happily Ever After, but it has the Cure's second and third albums on it, Faith and 17 Seconds. So this is the sort of depressive period of the Cure. And I actually, that's what it's known as. After this one, they came out with Pornography. I think I have that right. And I can't listen to Pornography. I just don't find it very listenable. The music on these discs, yeah, it's not uplifting, but it's not a total dirge. So there's some really good cuts on this. A Forest is good. That's off 17 Seconds. And Other Voices, I love. It's got this really crispy bass part on it. It's awesome. So there's a couple or three dirgy things on here, but the rest of it is really clean. It's minor key, but it's really clean, simple, stripped down stuff. Like a lot of them are purely drum machine, bass, guitar, and Robert Smith's voice mixed pretty darn low. So this is interesting music to listen to, and it's actually recorded very nicely. I like listening to this a lot. So that's the Baker's Dozen of stuff that I pulled off my shelves to listen to on my newly sort of assembled sort of vintage analog stereo setup. And hopefully I turned you on to something cool or reminded you maybe of something that you have that you might want to hear again. And I believe that's all I've got to say. Can't think of anything more. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you later.